Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be touring a minigame which I fully finished designing and then decided last minute to scrap it, and I will explain why. Firstly, we're in a different world. Basically, I lost my old plan world, so I started designing this game in a new version, and I'm going to be touring all of the game, and then I'm going to be explaining why I scrapped it. And I just wanted to kind of do this just because I thought that I want to do another mini game in the future using the mechanic, and I realized that the the game that I came up with, as cool as like it sounded, this just wasn't it. And I really wanted to just show that just because you've got an idea, it doesn't mean it's a good one. And so, yeah, let me kind of explain what it was I wanted to use. So, I really just wanted to use. So, I discovered that Skulk Shriekers. I think I've got my game sound turned on, but you're gonna have to believe me. Basically, they when you activate them, they make like little shrieking sounds. I mean, they are called Skulk Shriekers, so you would imagine. But I discovered that if you put water on top of them and you stand on them, they don't make a noise. They basically become silent, but they still do the other particles. And I was like, oh, okay, that's quite cool. So I spent a very long time just trying to think about the initial. I actually did do a behind the scenes for this mini game, um, but basically, I fully finished designing the game, and then yeah, I realized pretty much just before I was about to like plot it in my world and find a space that this just wasn't a good idea. So basically, I eventually came up with the concept of doing it as a memory game. And so I liked the idea of doing something like this, where there would be shriekers under the floor, and you would be up here watching, and there'd be some that would go off with the noise and some that didn't. And you would have to memorize which ones didn't have the other sound on, and then at the end you then input into like a screen which ones you thought were activated in which order. And I thought that was quite an interesting idea for a game. So I then realized that the material that the floor was built out of was quite important, because say if I've got like light blue wool above this shrieker. Actually, let's just grab like another shrieker. I'm sure you'll understand what I'm about to, what I'm about to get to. But basically, like if I might be able to very quickly do that. You can see that it's very difficult to see the other particle, and that was like another concept I had. I had the idea of maybe like further back they're like some of the wool, like the light blue wool and stuff. But I realized that the game would just be probably a bit too hard, especially because I didn't know how many like steps I was going to allow you to have, how many shriekers were allowed to be activated in one go. So for that reason, I decided just to not use wool. So I decided to use concrete, just because it's a little bit obvious, and the grey and the white and the light grey and the black just kind of were looked quite nice together, and they also were very visible with the other particle. Like if I show you with this grey, once again, let's just do another example. If I show you with this grey here, you will notice that it's very visible. Like that's very visible. That's very easy to see from even here. So I realised that concrete, especially like the darker colours, was the other way to go. I then realised that the method of inputting how many, like which sensors got activated in which order. I then realized that I needed an easy way to do that. And the idea that I had was that there'd be a room behind with Skulk Shriekers in the same pattern, and then the player would stamp on them to basically like set them off. So say if they thought that was it, they would set that off, and then if they thought this was it, they'd do that one, etc. etc. Um, and that was kind of the concept, and then was to have like a wall somewhere here that would be where the person would stand to watch, and then they'd flick a light or press a button in the order that they thought it was. I then realised that I needed a way for the player who's setting them off to put down exactly which ones they were, because if they were doing theirs from memory, they might get it wrong or they might forget. So I then came up with the idea of having lamps behind, and then I had the idea of, oh, well, this pretty much is pointless because you could just place the blocks in a row and then just reveal them and see if they match. It's just way easier. Um, so I pretty much got that sorted, and then I realised that the problem was activating the shriekers, because in order for you to be able to see the particles, the shriekers have to be directly underneath a block. If they're 2 blocks above, you simply can't see the particle. Like if I do it about here, you'll notice that no matter how many times I try, like the particle's just not visible. You just can't see it at all. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to start thinking of something that, a way that I could do that. So then I thought, okay, what if there was an item that you press? So say there'd be someone in a room underneath, and they would like press a button, which would fire a bit of wool onto the shrieker, because I discovered that if you throw something on them, they also activate. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So maybe it could be that, you've got to throw like from a dispenser, you could be in a tower pressing buttons and then they would activate them. I then very annoyingly discovered that items that fire from dispensers, they just don't activate the shriekers. They just basically just don't activate them at all, even if they've got water on or not. They just don't do it. That was really annoying. I then realised that the way to do it was to have it so you're throwing one from underneath like that. You can see that it will activate. I then realised the problem was if there's a block there like that, you can't throw it onto the shrieker. Basically, it blocks it. So then I had the idea of putting half slabs, which would basically mean that you can still throw it in, it would still activate, but it would also still keep it so it's the same height as the floor. I then realised I didn't really like the look of the half slab, so I played around with doing quartz a little bit, and then I realised that the easiest way to keep track of the score, rather than to have like lamps or anything, was to just do colours. So I made it so each shrieker was assigned to a colour, and then basically at the end of the game you just go, right, I think it was purple, pink, yellow, green. And that way then it's also just a lot easier to remember as well. So that was it. This is when I discovered about the wool being a bit of a problem, and you can see me trying the half slabs. I didn't really like the look of the stone; it looked a bit too natural for the game, I thought. So I then realised, you can't even see them, but like I destroyed so many different methods to try and get this to work with the Shrieker, where it would automatically do it. I then decided to go to Google, and I discovered that Stalk Shriekers won't activate from anything that is not started by a player. So basically, if a player doesn't manually throw something or step on it or whatever, basically the Shrieker doesn't activate. I even had the idea of using sensors and having those activate, because those do. The problem is that I wanted it all automatic, and I realised that if you have a note block or a piston or anything that's done by redstone and not set off by you, the shrieker, like the sensor, just doesn't send it to the shrieker. It basically just ignores it. And the problem was I very soon realised that the only way to get the shriekers to activate was going to be for the player themselves to actually like manually do it. So I came up with lots of ways. This is this is where it's like a bit ridiculous. So this was one of my methods of me trying. I tried with wool to try and block off the shriek, the sensor, so other ones from other colours wouldn't activate them. I think, is there a note block in here? Yeah, you can see a note block. So I think if I press the button, yeah, if I press the button, it does activate the shrieker. But if a trail of redstone was linking to that note block and set it off, it wouldn't activate the shrieker. It basically has to be a player that insinuates it. And so then I came up with this method where there would be basically like the top area here where you'd play, and then like an underground section with all the colours, and then basically the player would go in, stand on that glowstone, which would activate that, which would then go to the shrieker, and you can just about see. Oh, there you go. Let me show you with this one. Let me just do that, and let's see if I can very quickly. There we go. So you can see that the particles are there getting activated. Um, I then realised that I needed a way for the water to automatically get like set off, because I kind of abandoned the whole mechanic of using the water on the Shrieker. Like that's pretty much what the whole game was based around. And I know I could have done a version without it. Well, it just the reason why I wanted it is a way just to basically throw people off, because otherwise, like like it could be a bit too easy to remember. So I wanted a way to really throw players off. So I decided to add the water in. I then realised that I could just very easily have dispensers with buttons. So say if I wanted the magenta one to be off, I could just press that or press the green one. That way, then when that goes off, it would, if there was a shrieker there, activate the shrieker, but it basically just wouldn't make a noise. I then realised that if I press that one there, like it's very hard to kind of tell which one you've pressed it for. Like even through there, okay, you can kind of see the water there, but you'll also realise that it's just far too difficult to remember. And I did think about having like lamps or something, but that would have made the game way bigger and would have had more redstone. And so I basically decided that, you know what, you just press the button, and then you can just see there if there's water there or not, and then you'd basically just like do that. So that was pretty much like the entire game worked out. And so I started designing what it looked like, and I actually still quite like the look of this, but I did like colourful glass like going around, and then I did it so then you enter from one of these sides and you just run in like this. I then realised that I needed a platform for the player to go, but because I built with glass, I had to do it all raised. So I made it kind of look like it was on stilts. It looks a bit of a mess. And then in here would be where you go to see the shriekers, and then the glowstone is where you'd put the wool. So say if I thought it was magenta, uh, let's say I thought it was magenta, orange, green. I'd do like magenta, orange, green, and then basically like on this side would be where the play would go. Oh, here we go. Here would be where the play would go, and then at the end of the game they just pull that to reveal what colours were gone in which order, and can the rain go away. But yeah, basically, like that was just a very nice, easy way. I then realised that you could just see the player walk through the glass, so I made these little walkways and also made it so this doesn't go as far out. I also thought about maybe putting iron doors, but I realised they'd be a bit pointless. So those were a few problems. I then fully finished designing the game. I did the paths, I did the grass and everything, and then I realised that because I left gaps and because of all the glass, if you stood on here and this was grass, it would set off the Skulk Shriekers, which was a very big pain. It wouldn't have been so much of a pain if you weren't playing the game, but imagine like we've got more than two people in, and someone accidentally or on purpose does that, or even this was a good example, like an animal walks on here, like they would set off the shriekers, and that might mess up the person who's trying to set it up and might confuse the person up here. So I added wool around the entire outside. This basically would mean that no matter where you'd stand, you wouldn't set it off. This path is too far away from the other streaker. You can see to set it off. That just worked out quite nicely. And yeah, that was pretty much the whole thing. I added wool here, and the game was pretty much ready to be built in my world and played. And I was so set on building this. And then I went to bed, I had a sleep, woke up, and realised that this was just a terrible idea. And the main epiphany, and this is kind of what I wanted to end this video on, was talk about why did I scrap this? Why did this not end up becoming a mini game in my world? The simple reason why was because I just didn't think it'd be much fun. Like, I realised that it involved a lot of setting up. It involved a lot of, you having to do this and then press buttons, and, the person up here would have to memorize, and then the person, like, basically it was too annoying for the person who was trying to set up, and it just got way too complicated, got way too over the top, and ultimately I just couldn't see me having fun in this game. I didn't actually ever do a test with anyone for this game, but I can just already imagine it probably just wouldn't be much fun. Also, like for me, because I've got the ray tracing now, like in my opinion, I mean, of course, I could just do that and turn it off, but like I never like it when I have to turn the ray tracing off again. Like now that the series has got this on, I kind of want to keep it on and never turn it off. So yeah, this was a mini game which I fully fledged, designed, finished, worked out completely, and scrapped like last minute. And the reason why I kind of wanted to show this off is because I just wanted to prove that just because you've got an idea for something, like it doesn't make it a good idea. It just means that that's the base concept. And also, like, don't overcomplicate things. If something's a very simple idea, like I could have very simply kept this as a memory game, about you just going on these. It was just the problem that I had was the way that Skulk Shriekers work and the way that, the way how small they are and stuff. It just became a really big problem. Oh, why is there a polar bear? Why are there a few? Why are there loads of polar bears? I actually don't. Oh gosh, someone died. I don't. I actually don't know why there's loads of polar bears. But yeah, basically, like this game, I just couldn't see me having fun, and I couldn't imagine other people having fun playing this game. And so I decided that, you know what, this just wasn't meant to be. And so I scrapped it. But I still do want to do a mini game in the future involving the Skulk Shrieker, particularly with the mechanic of the water. But I just think that there's probably a way better game that I could do rather than this memory game. Um, maybe if I'd have taken a different path or like, did something completely different, maybe it could have ended up a lot better. But ultimately, the path that this one took obviously wasn't the right one. And yeah, I'm just like, I just don't like this game very much anymore. Like, it's such like a simple game, but I just couldn't imagine anyone having fun playing it. And ultimately, it doesn't matter how fun the game, like how cool the game looks, or how long it takes, or how cool the mechanics are. Like it doesn't matter about anything like that. Like when it comes to mini games, if the mini game isn't fun to play, there's no point to any of this. Like no one will want to play it. So like it's just a bit of a shame that I spent so long on this, but it does leave me a great opportunity to design a brand new minigame, voice crack, using the Skulk Shrieker. Because the cool thing about them is that if you place them, they don't actually spawn wardens, which is something that I might play around with. I can definitely do something with the sounds and the particles. So yeah, there will be something in the future using the Skulk Shrieker, but it won't be this. But yeah, I kind of wanted to show this off because yeah, I just thought it'd be quite funny just to kind of show that, because like, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of really wanted to show everyone. So I hope that you have all enjoyed watching my failed minigame uh, idea. Very soon there will be a new video. I actually have a video for my world coming out very soon, where we're building a new game, and I only a few days ago recorded the tournament for that game, and it was really fun. So I'm really looking forward to you guys seeing what that game is. But yeah, thank you all. Oh, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all at some point.